It started with a smile. His most tension-laced television moments often do. Michael B. Jordan took his seat on The View, greeted with applause, an easy charm radiating off him like sunlight. The audience adored him. The hosts, most of them, seemed genuinely excited to have him there. But even the warmest rooms can turn cold fast, and in this case, the ice came not from the weather outside, but from across the table. Sunny Hostin, with a pointed line of questioning that seemed less about curiosity and more about confrontation. At first, Michael kept his composure, fielding her queries about his latest film, his role as a producer, and his philanthropic efforts in underserved communities. But it didn't take long before the energy shifted. Sunny, known for her sharp wit and relentless journalistic edge, pivoted the conversation toward the politics of representation in Hollywood. It was a worthy topic, one Michael had spoken about passionately in the past. But this time, her tone wasn't inquisitive, was accusatory. She suggested, in so many words, that he hadn't done enough. That for someone with so much influence, his activism felt performative compared to his white counterparts who had put more on the line. The moment hung in the air, like a dropped microphone. Michael blinked, visibly taken aback, not by the topic itself, but by the implication that all of his work, his carefully cultivated image, his tireless off-screen efforts, could be dismissed with a sideways glance. "On daytime TV, I don't think you know what I've put on the line," he said finally, voice low but steady. "You see the cameras and the premieres. You don't see the calls I take at midnight, the schools I fund quietly, the boards I sit on that aren't glamorous. You don't know what it means to move differently because of who I am and what I am. Represent." Sunny leaned back in her chair, eyebrows arched. "But don't you think silence on some issues is complicity?" she fired back. That was the match that lit the fuse. Michael's expression changed, not angry, but profoundly disappointed. "I came here to have a conversation, not to defend my existence." The crowd shifted, applause uncertain. The tension had become undeniable. He stood slowly, calmly removing his mic and placing it on the table. "This isn't the space for a real dialogue. You don't want to hear my truth? You want to corner me into your version of it." With that, he walked off the set, the stunned audience watching in silence as the camera scrambled to pivot. Joy Behar, calling for a break while the producers scrambled in her earpiece. But the damage was done. The clip, raw and uncut, hit social media within minutes, already setting fire to the conversation far beyond ABC's Morning Till. Asterisk what unfolded after Michael B. Jordan's walk-off wasn't just the fallout of a viral moment, it was a cultural flashpoint that exposed the widening cracks in daytime television's carefully polished facade. The clip of the exchange between him and Sunny Hostin spread with ruthless speed, shared by millions within hours. News outlets, celebrity blogs, political pundits, and everyday viewers dissected every word, every pause, every raised eyebrow. The moment became a Rorschach test. Some saw a powerful man avoiding accountability. Others saw a successful black artist being unfairly interrogated. What no one saw was indifference. Everyone had a take. Like hashtag Michael stands tall and hashtag Hostin hostility trended simultaneously, reflecting a nation split not just by opinion, but by how they interpret power, purpose, and presence in the public eye. What made the moment even more potent was how visibly hurt Michael appeared, not enraged. He was not embarrassed, but deeply disappointed. This wasn't a celebrity outburst. This was a man who'd spent years trying to elevate underrepresented voices. Through film, education, and activism, only to be publicly questioned in a way that seemed to invalidate those efforts. Quietly, his team released a short statement on Instagram. "Sometimes conversations aren't about understanding. They're about control. I choose my peace. Always." It was brief, but it thundered across platforms. The View's producers scrambled for damage control. Sunny Hostin, meanwhile, doubled down on her line of questioning in follow-up interviews, framing it as a moment of necessary discomfort. But for many viewers, it didn't land. Her tone had crossed from tough journalism into public interrogation, and her timing, springing the accusation at the end of the segment, gave Michael no space for proper rebuttal. Behind the scenes, ABC executives held emergency meetings. Aware that the show was now more a liability than a daytime staple, sponsors began quietly reviewing contracts. Audience members and online viewers began calling for accountability, not just for the incident, but for a long history of guests, particularly black men, being placed in defensive positions on the show. Meanwhile, Michael's peers, actors, musicians, authors rallied around him. From Issa Rae to Ava DuVernay, voices across the industry posted messages of solidarity, noting how often public platforms demand pain from black artists in exchange for visibility. "We don't owe our trauma for your applause," one post read, receiving hundreds of thousands of likes. Michael didn't comment again, but he didn't need to. His silence, like his departure, spoke louder than any interview. Shows began revisiting how they conduct their interviews. It became clear this wasn't just a moment, it was a reckoning. And at the center of it was a man who chose dignity over debate, walking away not out of weakness, but strength. Asterisk, the media storm that followed Michael B. Jordan's abrupt departure from The View morphed into something even more powerful then. A trending headline, it became a mirror held up to the face of an entire industry that had grown too comfortable using confrontation as content. Talk shows had long walked the fine line between honest discourse and orchestrated tension, but this moment pierced through that illusion like lightning. Suddenly, producers across networks were being questioned about their pre-interview prep, how much warning they gave guests about sensitive topics, and whether some hosts were weaponizing their platforms under the guise of journalism. For The View, the pressure was immediate and intense. Viewership in the days after the incident saw a sharp drop. Comment sections on their official pages were flooded with disapproval. Fans of the show were divided. Some defended Sunny Hostin's approach as necessary provocation in a time when public figures needed to be held accountable. But a growing number saw it as yet another example of how black excellence was often met with mistrust, even when it arrived with receipts, results, and relentless effort. Michael B. Jordan hadn't just walked off, he had forced the conversation to shift. The irony was that his original reason for appearing on the show had been to promote a film rooted in themes of personal struggle, family legacy, and black empowerment. But none of that had made it into the episode. What should have been a celebration of creative achievement became a case study in how platforms often fail the very voices they claim to uplift. In response, other stars began re-evaluating their own media commitments. Publicists quietly updated media lists. Whispers spread that A-list celebrities were reconsidering The View as a promotional stop. A producer from a competing talk show even posted, "Note to self, listen more, corner less." Meanwhile, Michael kept moving forward. Just days later, he was seen visiting a youth center he funded in Newark, smiling with kids, hosting a surprise film screening. No press, no cameras, until someone posted a photo online writing, "While they debate his activism, he's out here doing the work." That post went viral, reigniting public admiration for his unshaken sense of purpose. Though he never returned to The View, nor addressed the incident again publicly, the industry had already felt the shift. Booking agents, PR teams, and even rival hosts began rethinking how they structured conversations, realizing that gone were the days when stars would just grin and bear it. Michael's walk-off had redefined the power dynamic not just between guest and host, but between authenticity and spectacle. In standing up and walking out, he'd reclaimed the narrative from a format that had tried to script it for him. Asterisk.